Hello, Giants fans. Welcome to Giants Baseball 101. I'm Gabe Vaughn, your host. Well, we're at a very interesting time in the winter meetings. And honestly, the Giants' apparent situation right now is something that I don't even really know how to interpret. And I checked for updates. And I was hoping that on their official website, where you just get the mainline stream of news, I was hoping to be able to find a clear update on what was going on, but I really wasn't prepared for the actual update that came on, and it really, the article that's up there right now, what it indicates is essentially that the Giants are just waiting on Shohei Ohtani's decision, and it did say also that they're pretty much just putting the rest of their potential signings on hold until after they see what happens with Ohtani, presumably to just keep the money ready to sign him, with the understanding that he's going to get a massive contract. And I wasn't able to gather any information about what the Giants are actually offering Ohtani, and I know it's sometimes tough for those kind of details to become public. But honestly, I can't say that I know, honestly, how to interpret this situation, how I would exactly interpret it, or what to make of things. And I know for some of you, it might seem like this is a bad sign, and I know that we have, and it's very legitimate that this is the case based on just recent history, but I'm sure that not very many of us would be inclined to think that no news is at all good news. I mean, just based on the evidence of the history of last offseason, it's no news was just bad news all the way through. And right now, it probably seems in a way like that's repeating itself. And I mentioned yesterday that there are a lot of similarities between the Giants' situation this year and what it was last year during the winter meetings. And right now with Shohei Ohtani, we're seeing at least a glimpse of some things that we saw before, where you're just kind of, when all is said and done. Now I don't know that all is said and done, or what negotiations are really going on, but it just seems to be at a time where they're just kind of awaiting the result. And I mean, the information has got to be somewhere, honestly, of like how much the Giants are offering Ohtani, and I'm sure that if it's going to be like way more public at some point, but like I said, I'm confident that his ultimate deal is going to be over $600 million. He's the best player in the game, and he's got multiple teams in the running for him. But I don't know what we can actually infer from just where we hear the Giants are. The positive news is that Farhan Zaidi really feels obligated to put a better product on the field. He is definitely feeling the pressure, and maybe you could say that's kind of what he was saying last year too. But I mean, I would hope that at this point things actually get serious. So while I really don't know what to think, honestly, of the Giants being in the situation that they seem to be in, where it's just kind of, you know, they're one of the finalists for Ohtani, and they have to wait and see. But I don't think that necessarily is a bad thing, just because it does remind us, and it does have a lot of parallels of what happened with Aaron Judge last year. And obviously we remember how that ended. It ended badly, and I think it has a direct link for sure to costing the Giants the postseason this year. I mean, had they won just a few more games, they would have been significantly closer. And I think the loss of Aaron Judge is just a direct link. You see bad things happen, and I mean the bad consequences in this sport are sometimes just very direct. But I will say, and I don't want to give a false sense of comfort and security to the entire section of the fan base that is watching these videos, because I don't know, and for sure the front office has not given us any reason to trust them. But I'm also not sure that it's that necessarily the kind of the lack of real updated information that we have. I don't think that necessarily implies that Ohtani's not going to come to San Francisco. And part of the reason is because while he was previously expected to sign during the winter meetings, now in this latest thing that I'm seeing, this latest update on the Giants official website, the article says essentially that he's likely to continue talking to teams after the winter meetings. So that this process it's probably going to be delayed for longer than we might have thought originally. And I don't expect this to be resolved tomorrow. So for those of you that are maybe sitting there just with the expectation that the bomb's going to drop very soon, one way or the other, I'm not sure that's going to be the case. And honestly, this could take longer than maybe we might think. But the Giants then are going to have to keep up there. If they get the mindset that they've made the final offer, then the more aggressive teams are going to win. So I would say the main thing is that they make sure that they keep up as far as negotiations go. And it may take at least another week. It may take another 2 weeks. It might take 3 weeks. I mean, we just don't know how long Ohtani is going to run this thing out, and how long he's going to try to test the free agent market. So this is where the final outcome is likely to differ entirely from that with Aaron Judge, in that with so many teams pursuing him, Ohtani may just not be ready to make a decision so soon. Even the Angels, they're trying to re-sign him. Obviously, he never got to appear in a playoff game during his time with the Angels because the rest of the team just didn't perform. And it was kind of from an organizational perspective, not a baseball history perspective at all, no, but just from the perspective of the Angels organization, it was just kind of wasted in terms of competition, although it drew for sure thousands of more fans than they would have had even if they had had exactly the same record with a more talent balanced team and no superstar like Ohtani. But I mean the way things are with the Giants, I have to say I just don't think that we can know honestly what to think right now, or really what is going on behind the scenes based on the fact that updated information has just not been made public. But one thing that I do want to talk about is what do you think like about this thing with the Giants kind of waiting on everybody else while they are looking to sign Ohtani? And I'm just this is information I obtained from the headline article on the Giants website. I didn't come up with this myself, but that's what they are supposed to be doing. Like, they're expected to put the other offseason deals on hold while they await Ohtani's decision about who to sign with. Now, the question is that what they should be doing? And we'll think back to last year where they lost Aaron Judge. And again, I just, it shouldn't have happened. It might have felt like the Giants were breaking their pockets, but again, it could have made the difference between them making the postseason and not making it. Who knows how big of an impact Aaron Judge could have had in San Francisco in 2023, and yet now he's gone for a decade. But there was another thing that happened during the winter meetings just before Judge fell away to the Yankees. That was with Trey Turner. Now, you remember a little while ago, I think it was about a week ago, I talked about shortstop and how now it's being emphasized that there's a vacancy, that there's a hole in the shortstop position. And I basically made the probably unpopular statement that for the entirety of 2023, if you're interested in the product that was on the field as compared to the product that could have been on the field, there was always a hole at the shortstop position. I'm sorry if this is unpopular, and I get why it is. I understand that this is not going to fall well on the ears of every Giants fan, especially the longtime Giants fans. But for the entirety of 2023, pretty much, there was a hole at the shortstop position. And that's not a new thing that comes up because it's the offseason and Brandon Crawford is a free agent who might be retiring. It's just that's not the actual case. You look at Crawford's numbers for 2023 and see if it doesn't prove my point. The issue is not just having guys who can play positions and maybe be not super terrible with the bat. It's you got to have production. And even if you were talking about a franchise player who's just been around forever and been a superstar before, if he's not performing, and even if it is necessary to relegate him to the bench in order to get that kind of performance and production, then that's what's got to happen. Now, back to last offseason, and with still keeping the shortstop position in mind, and going back to the time during the 2022 winter meetings when the Giants were in negotiations with Aaron Judge. Just think about the other player who slipped through their fingers during that time, and almost certainly part of the reason was because they were holding their financial resources so that they could just let them all explode on Aaron Judge, and probably couldn't afford to be making two huge contract negotiations at the same time. And let it be said right now, I'm not saying that this was a bad thing. I'm not making a statement right here that the Giants had an absolute obligation to sign both Aaron Judge and Trey Turner. I'm not saying that, because that would have been extremely hard to do. The overall point, and I'm kind of stealing my thunder of like the end of this example, but the overall point is that both slipped through their fingers, and that is a big contributor to why they did not make the playoffs in 2023. But when did Trey Turner slip and sign with the Phillies? It was when the Giants were negotiating with Aaron Judge. That was when it happened. And when they were in that fight with the Yankees, Trey Turner fell away. And soon after, Aaron Judge did. Now, why am I bringing this up? It's because I don't know that in this whole battle over Ohtani, I don't know that it is good to forget everybody else. And I know you'll say, well, what about the budget and all that? Well, here's the point I go to make, and it's not that Ohtani isn't the best player in baseball. I'm not at all saying that. So please just take this in proper context when I make this next point. Remember that Ohtani, unless some miracle happens, is not going to be able to pitch in 2024. He'll be able to hit. He's going to hit a ton of bombs. He's just not going to be able to pitch. Even if the Giants successfully land Ohtani, they probably still need another starting pitcher. They really do. I know I've kind of been making things sound like if the Giants can just sign Ohtani, that's all they're going to need to ever get this offseason. But they're going to need at least one more player. And if that's all, then that's all. But they should sign another quality starting pitcher. They really should, and that's all there is to it. With the understanding, I understand, big budget, sometimes you got to do that to win games. With the understanding that they probably need another starting pitcher anyway, there's probably no reason then why the Giants shouldn't be pursuing another starting pitcher right now. And it should not in any way distract them from doing everything they can, whatever it takes, to land this superstar Shohei Ohtani. They got to do both. It's something they have to do. So there's probably no conflict here by just looking on the market for a starting pitcher during this time. And I'm not saying they'll be ruined if they don't. It's likely there'll still be one available later and that they can maybe take care of that. And I understand too that it's a hectic time and it would be hard to focus elsewhere, but it's just probably a good idea for them to keep their sights set elsewhere during this time while still not allowing it to at all soften their pursuit of Ohtani. Now, going back to the point I made after Gabe Kapler was first dismissed as on-field manager, it came as no surprise, and they did absolutely the right thing by switching managers. Because Kapler, he just wasn't able to squeeze out the wins that he should have squeezed out, and I mean, it was pretty clearly time for a change. But you don't get the full picture until you look closely at the little details that are so easy to think are unimportant if you don't have a real eye for zooming in, if you don't have an eye for trying to look behind the scenes. But the issue is the timing of Kapler's firing. Managers get fired all the time, but when does it usually happen? When the season's over. Maybe in a few extremely rare cases it happens in the middle of the season, a team, they got a chance for the postseason. Managers not winning games, though, and they want to rush for it. They're desperate. Those are extremely rare. This was after the Giants were eliminated from the playoffs, though, with 3 more games to go. That was the timing of Kapler's firing. It might not seem like much at first, but just keep thinking here with me. Kai Correa took over as the on-field manager for the final series against the Dodgers. Now, what would have been the purpose behind this? That's a good question, because why would the Giants want to just play down a coach? Could be just they were being really nice to Kapler and trying to give him a chance to look for another job, but before the next season started and giving him as much time as possible. But I mean, there's still the whole off season. So you just wonder, why was he fired 3 games in advance of the end of the season? It's the timing that, to me, just sets off a whole new question that wouldn't be there if he was just fired the way managers usually are. And this is mere speculation, I understand, but how much imagination does it really take, if any at all, to picture a very scared and frightened Farhan Zaidi who knows he'd better start doing stuff as immediately as possible if he wants to keep his job? I don't think it takes any imagination at all whatsoever. So my theory, and don't repeat this to anybody like I stated an absolute fact here. My theory is that Farhan Zaidi was feeling intense pressure to look like he was doing something. Now, looking like he's doing stuff is great if that's what he's actually going to do, and we see the results, which we may. It just remains to be seen. And Bob Melvin coming in, that's just a huge reason. In fact, it's the reason. It is the reason why Zaidi got his contract extension. So Melvin coming in, and it could be a good thing if Zaidi just follows through on all of his very good intentions. But obviously the reverse is true too. If he can't do it, if he can't get real top level superstar players, do you see how Bob Melvin coming in as manager could actually be a bad thing for the Giants if things turned out that way, due to the fact that it resulted in getting Zaidi an extension if he continues to kind of be the way he was before, which it really looks like he's turning the corner, and we just hope that this time it is genuine. Thank you for watching. This has been Giants Baseball 101. Please subscribe if you haven't. Also, please leave your questions and comments. You know where to do it. I'll see you next time on Giants Baseball 101.